The Nintendo Switch 2 has now been out for a little bit over a week, and I wanted to give my first impressions on the system, as there's been a lot of kickback on whether the system is worth the money, whether it's not worth the money, and what kind of games are worth what. Now, I will start off by saying there are a lot of pros and some woes to this console. The biggest woe being right now is just me being lazy, is that I have a Switch Pro controller, one, not the second gen, and I can't turn the system on from it. That's kind of annoying. The fact that I can't wake up my sleeping console with my controller is a little bit frustrating. Nintendo has said that it's an oversight and it will be patched out in the upcoming patches. However, I still feel like that's something that should have been on day one, especially, considering the fact that it was already a feature that's on there. I have seen other people on like Twitter and stuff saying that they miss the ability to upload their content to stuff like Facebook without actually having a smartphone and stuff like that. This way they can preserve their stuff a little bit better. And I can see that gripe behind there as well. Me personally, I don't have a problem with that because of the fact that I do have a smartphone. I can just upload it right to the Switch app. However, I get the gripe from everybody else. Now, I will say one big thing for me that is a little bit of an issue when it comes to just the overall playability of the console. I think that if they're going to have this whole let's play together aspect of this console, where they're inviting more multiplayer and hanging out together with things like game chat, there needs to be a party system. Me and a friend have been trying to play Mario Kart together, and there's been plenty of times where I've gotten into a lobby and he tried to join, and we just were unable to because the lobby gets full. Why is there no party system? There should be a system where I could join a party with my friends online, especially if we're already using the game chat feature, and say, hey, listen, let's hop into this online play together, and let's guarantee that we're going to get in the same room and not have to sit here and spend 10, 15 minutes trying to get into the same room together because, the slot gets full, stuff like that. That's just one thing that I personally feel should be already involved in the game, especially if that's a feature that they're really heavily pushing, especially with the game chat feature. One other thing that I will say is my TV, and this is me, a personal issue, this has nothing to do with everybody else, my TV is a little bit older. HDR is on by default, and if you don't have a TV that's compatible with HDR, sometimes the console just does not connect. It'll turn on, it'll be perfectly fine in the dock, and then you're like, hey, why isn't my TV actually displaying my console? You look at the dock, and then all of a sudden you see that it's actually on the Switch screen itself and not on like the dock, and that's because HDR was turned on, and you have to go through and manually turn off HDR and reconnect to your TV. Now again, sometimes my TV does it. I don't know why. But this is something that, like, if you don't know how to find that feature, and you don't know, like, the difference between HDR, like, if you're a kid and you're just plugging in your Switch to your TV and it's a little bit older and you don't support HDR and it's just not going to work on your TV, I can see that being extremely frustrating. Now, I will say, things that I absolutely love about this console is the Joy-Cons are bigger. I have big hands, so the Joy-Cons being bigger make them a lot more comfortable. I know I've seen people still hating on the fact that they have, like, the actual Joy-Con on the right-hand side in the middle of the console. I've never been that guy. I don't think it's a problem. In fact, I very, very seldom use my Joy-Cons because of the fact that they were so small in the previous model that I've moved away from doing that. But I know, like, when we play Mario Party, we like to use the Joy-Cons, and I use the one with the center in it, and I have never had any sort of complaint to it. I do think that the bigger size is nice. I still hate the Joy-Con grip, though. One other thing is that this console looks absolutely gorgeous when you're playing. And that's even more when you're holding it in handheld. I very, very seldomly played my Switch in bed while just like waiting to wind down and go to sleep. And I've already done that multiple times since I've gotten the Switch 2. One, because it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit brighter. The Joy-Cons feel better, they're a little bit more responsive, they're a little bit heavier as well, so it makes it feel like they're not so like fragile. And again, the screen resolution just looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, I will also say something about the battery life. My previous Switch, I'd probably be able to play for like 2 hours handheld. And there was times where, like, if I left that dock unplugged, for whatever reason, maybe I had to plug in a vacuum or something, I would come back and my console would be dead. I don't have that problem with this Switch. The Switch actually has a pretty good battery this time around. It's not great, but it's definitely way, way better than it was. Now, especially when it comes to being able to play, I've run into no stuttering, no stammering, no issues whatsoever besides maybe like server-side issues on things like Mario Kart where I get communication errors every now and then. But I feel like that's just the servers, and that will be weeded out. Overall, I really, really enjoyed the system. I think the System 1 looks great. It's very, very pretty in person. The actual graphic size of the thing is excellent. I've had no processing issues whatsoever, and everything I've played runs fantastically. And I've played quite a few things in this game already. I've played Pokemon Unite, which was a game that was like historically kind of poorly optimized for the Switch, and things like Pokemon, which now obviously everyone's happy with the windmill. I do want to play like Dreamlight Valley on here because that was a game that Kelly was playing on the Switch, and it ran like you know dog crap, and it would force close all the time. So I'm curious to see how that runs. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. So far, so good. I really love the Switch 2. I don't get all the heat behind it. I know people aren't happy with the price of the games, and this and that. And they say get a Steam Deck. I already have a Steam Deck. But I genuinely love the console so far. I think it's a great addition to the Switch line of families. And it's nice to have a Nintendo system that I could take on the go with me and play all my favorite games like Fantasy Life, Mario Kart, Fortnite, and the works. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to follow, timed out as I'm doing my action. If you want to follow us, make sure to hit the follow button. If you want to see some of our live streams, head over to Twitch. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody.